Welcome back to another fantasy video with me, JD. Once again, sorry for the late upload on this one this week. Went into the detailed explanation in the Supercoach video, so if you care, watch the intro to that. Otherwise, I'm just going to jump straight into it. We'll knock this one out quickly this week. Last week I scored an 1880, which was a good score by looks of things. 1600 round rank, and we're up to 1800 overall, so pretty good. After the first bye week, I think I was out to 4400, and then last week, I think went to about 2,900 again, and then back to 1,800 this week, which is once again why we look at the buys in whole. I'm trying to move up across them. But this week I thought would be pretty good. I know some people were struggling a little bit, and I had more than 22 playing. Decent week. Trades were Schoen, Maker, Zorko, and then McMullen, which we'll talk about in a second, in. Steele, Garcia, and Dempsey out. I originally had Simkin like a lot of others and had to pivot off this late. I looked at a bunch of options and I probably regret it now. I kind of liked Cozzy Pickett. He got midfield time the last 3 weeks, and you've got no Petrarca anymore, so you should have that up. His scoring was a bit inconsistent, but I think that was an interesting risk. You've got Menzie from Essendon, who I didn't end up going just because there's a chance he doesn't play this week. I think he probably does, and has a low break even, and maybe I should have risked it there. So I just went with McMullen, simply because he's shown scoring potential. GW was pretty injury prone. There's a chance he gets on, but more importantly, the money this week might just be handy, with Sharp being bad and needing to be traded. So I just went cash grab. If he ends up being dead, I probably should have just gone a 200k option instead. But there's a chance that basically thought there's a chance that he makes money at some point and plays this week. And I didn't want to sink 400 or 500k into one of these other guys, and it'd just be a really awkward move for me. So basically just decided cash is more important than points this week. That may have been the wrong move, but I was out for lunch and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it was just the best of a bad situation, I think. We'll go through just the team quickly. So defense was all average. I mean, Dacos was good in that game, and Shiz was good in his game. It just didn't translate to big points. Whitfield was obviously the one that was really nice. Show Maker on debut was great, and then disappointed that McCurch didn't play. But hopefully back this week. This is the week I need him the most. In the midfield, just a pretty shocking week overall. But Errol and Bont were two of the better mids, and then LDU as well. Without points last round, where is it? Were there any popular mids that went off that I didn't have? I know Laird. I don't think Laird's at popular. Yeah, 7%. I mean, Crisp is, that's killer, but he's a defender. Yeah, so really, I think I had the 3 mids that went 100, and that was probably more than what could be said for most teams, to be honest. So we'll take that. But yeah, Dawson, Day, and Butters all disappointing. Thankfully, Butters not suspended as of an hour or so ago. And then Sharp was the absolute killer here because I held him because I could. I think, 5-round average of 85 or something like that. Not necessarily a bad matchup either on the weekend against the Dogs, but they got absolutely pummeled. And so he ran 16 Ks for 15 points. It was something like 1 point per K that he ran. Just killer. McAuliffe came on as sub late and outscored him, which is nutso. So this is a very funny sit-start decision that I technically got wrong, even though the points don't matter. That's awful and just massive. Must have been 30-40k cash drop as well without having a look. 36k. So punished for being able to hold, which is nice. That's fantasy though. Rucks were okay. I finally get Gorn this week, which is nice. And then forward line, Powell with Phillips back. It's just always been a danger sign, and we saw it again. He's going to need to be moved on, but I'll have to persist with him for another week while we get through these buys. Lost 25k, which is killer. Held Sexton as well because I could, even though I think there's a chance he's dropped this week. That'll be funny if it happens in team sheets and he's dropped. But this last buy is my worst, which is why I was trying to hold Sharp, trying to hold Sexton. I'm going to have to trade Sharp anyway. Might have to trade Sexton anyway. And then, Zorko was good. I'm surprised in the end that he didn't go higher than this 125. A little bit disappointed, but look, a 125 is nothing to sneeze at. And I only Errol was 2 points extra, and Bont was 17 more. I wouldn't have captained Bont, so I think ultimately still a good call there. Who was my C originally? Maybe it was. It might have even been Dacos. I don't know. Yeah, it might have been Dacos originally. So look, we'll take the 125. And then Harvey Thomas, big week for my boy Harvey. Looks good in this game, so should continue to play, which I guess is bad for the McMullen. And maybe this is my hedge here. Like, there's a chance Harvey Thomas is sub McMullen. Anyway, yeah, it's fine. And then Dowling after the 89 last week, just the 55, but that's okay. Some decent cash gen should hold. So moving into round 15, obviously it's just around two things. One, making sure you have the best team coming out of this last bye, and then two, making sure that you've got 18, hopefully 19 or 20. That's really all we care about at this point. And so trades will be to facilitate both of those things. We're trying to get best 22 players. We're trying to make sure we've got lots playing. Trying to make sure we still got some cash gen coming out the other side. So originally trades out. I mean, I've had Tim English out for Gorn planned for a long time, so finally got Gorn, and I think I'm happy to keep Cherry. Even with Teakle in, I think Cherry's form's been good enough. Gorn this week's obviously a tough matchup, and he may not score particularly well with that, but I do think the ruck, the new tackle rule helps him, and you can his tackle numbers have always been good, but I think it does help him a bit just because they're calling him faster, so grab on, get that quick call, more likely to go free out of it, all that good stuff. So I'm happy with Cherry. Is Marshall or Grundy or whatever probably better on the run home? Maybe, and I might trade to them for certain points, but yeah, we're just going to go with a Cherry. All right, so then looking at the team, I think, so that was, English to go on, and then I've currently got Merritt in for Sharp. I think Sarong's the other one I'm keen on, but his break-even still quite high. And Walsh has a pretty good run over the next 2 weeks, so I can see people wanting to bring in Walsh as well for those the Cats and Tigers game. Obviously, a little bit of concern. One with his low time on ground and poor performance against Essendon, despite not getting a lot of attention. And then secondly, with Taggers being back, I do think Walsh is one of those ones that could be more susceptible or likely to be tagged, even though he's got a great work rate. So in that fixture coming up, Cats, I don't think have been tagging in either of Tigers, but Bedford for GWS tagged on the weekend. Dogs probably not a tag, and then North used Phillips, so yeah, potentially there. Port, I don't think have been tagging, although Drew can do jobs. Pies haven't been. Hawks, I don't think have been, surprisingly, even though they were one of the teams known for it last year. So I don't know, maybe Walsh is okay. It's actually not that bad. So I think he's the other one that you could look off the bye as well for the mids. But yeah, Merritt's probably my guy. Even though there's a chance he could be tagged this week or get some attention. And then I've got one more trade spot to figure out, and we'll just count how many I've actually got playing. So with McKercher hopefully back, that's 6 defenders. I'm missing, 2 in the midfield still, so that's another 6. That takes me up to 12. 2 in the rucks, 14. And then I've got a full forward line here, so that's 20. With that said, McMullen, not great. Harvey Thomas is just likely to give me a 30. Power's likely to give me a 30. I don't think Sexton's in for a good game. So a fair bit that I'm actually worried about here in terms of performance and output. So this last trade, I think I've really got 2 options here. It's either, I haven't got much money, 7K. So it's either taking out someone like a Harrison, who's probably getting close to top of his price for a playing rookie if someone comes along, and that would be ideal for me. Or it might be sidewaysing one of these guys that isn't going to be top of their line. So Dacos, Bont, Dawson, I still think all probably will be. But Day's the one I could move on. With that said, Day has a nice fixture with West Coast and Cats as the 2 post-buy. So do I really want to move him on? Probably not. And while he's 72 is disappointing, that's the lowest in, 6 weeks or something. So, into those nice fixtures, I probably don't want to get rid of him. So, yeah, I think it probably is a rookie trade for someone that is playing this week would be ideally what I do with that last spot. Otherwise, if Sexton has an issue, then I could see myself moving him on as well. So I think that's really it. I think the tough thing for this format is still who are the top 6 forwards. I've heard people talking about Sexton being top 6 forward. He is not a top 6 forward. If you're planning for him to be a top 6 forward, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed. His scoring when Sexton Power in the side was this, 80, 67, 49. It is not what we scored these last 5 weeks. And I don't think it was particularly good against the Saints. So I'm not sure that we've actually seen enough for him to get that role over Powell going forward. Joel Jeffries has been good, Euland's been good, and Flanders has been good. So someone's probably got to come out for Powell, and I still think it's Sexton, or at least his role changes a little bit. Maybe Jeffries does, but even if Jeffrey's the one that loses his spot, but Power comes in, I still think it's going to affect Sexton being pushed out to that like third in line. So I don't think he's top 6 forward. So I've got Flanders, Zorko, Heaney, Fisher. They're the 4 that I think we're pretty comfortable with. With the midfield time, I still think like Rankin's probably a good option. His scoring is going to be like a bit inconsistent, but yeah, the midfield time, I think it's a good call, especially at his price, which is 740. It's not a ton. Otherwise, we're looking at what Moore, I think, is a reasonable choice. Luke Jackson potentially. Let's have a look at some averages here. Danaher, I'm not going there, but if you had a F7, then sure. Baker, probably not. He's losing midfield time. Yeah, this is dire. This is real dire. Bolton, if he finds a bit of form, but yeah, no. So is it Caldwell here? Probably Caldwell. He's done enough these last 5 games. Likes being hit up for a mark through the middle. I think Parrish coming back could affect him negatively. But yeah, like Rankin's probably the one that I'm most interested in. Moore, Jackson, they're probably the 3. All priced around the 730 price point. So I could see myself jumping off Sexton after this week for one of those, for sure, coming out of the bye. So it would have me as like Flanders, Zorko, Heaney, Fisher, one of them, and then Powell. Powell obviously needs to get moved on as well. But yeah, I've got like, I'll have McKercher D6, I'll have Day or Oliver at M8, and then, Powell or someone needs to be moved on the forward line. Pretty bad spot, to be honest. Although I guess if I cash in on Harrison to 200k this week, it gives me 176k on this 7. That takes me to 180. I put 180 on Powell. Even if he loses money this week, I can get to one of these forwards. And then with the other trade with Sexton, I can get to another one of them. It's probably Caldwell that I will struggle to get to. But I think that might make sense as last 2 trades. The other trade this week. So Harrison out to a 200k that's playing, hopefully. And then, yeah, next week I'll upgrade these 2 forward spots. I'll hold Oliver and Day through their good fixtures. So Oliver the next 3, Day the next 2, and then probably look at upgrading them. And then McKercher, yeah, hopefully get a game or 2 just to assess where he's at in terms of how he looks after this injury, what his role looks like, and then figure out whether he's a D6 or needs to be upgraded. So I think that's what I do with my team from here. Have enough for the bye this week, which is good. We've made up some good bye ground. And yeah, hopefully keep playing on from there. I guess those next 2 weeks of trades do a couple of things. It lets me assess Day, Kircher, Oliver, but also Dowling, not so much McAuliffe and Fraser still have a little bit of money to make, so that gives them room to kind of flesh that out as well. That team still feels weak. Like I think there'll be other teams with better midfields. I'm still missing Sarong. So he's got to come down a bit of money, but like that's obviously one to look at, or like that I want to jump on. I'm anti-potting both Walsh and Sarong, which are pretty highly owned. I don't love that. We could consider Laird as an option if that halfback role persists. He looked much better in that. Defenders, I don't think I'm really missing anyone other than like Ryan. I mean, yeah, Ryan, Clark, Holmes. I like all of them as options. But the reality is I'm not paying $1 million for Ryan. I'm probably not even paying 900k for Clark. So that'll all be luxury stuff towards the back end that we look at. All right, I think that's it. That's pretty easy for me this week. Yeah, I wish I was holding sharp and actually trading at someone else on the buy. That would have been ideal. Doing, like maybe Fraser and Harrison down and getting Powell up to a premium or something this week would have been cool. Like getting Powell to Caldwell or something, but obviously that hasn't worked out. The other option is if Simpkin's back. I could see myself sidewaysing like Powell to Simpkin this week, which is pretty crazy. But yeah. That'll be it, I think, for me. Vice captain. I mentioned this on Supercoach. I actually see it's a pretty difficult week. There's not really too many options I like. I'll have to go consult DFS. But if you've got Walsh, I think that's a reasonable vice captain option. Otherwise, I'm looking at something like Gorn, get the new toy out into Merritt. It's probably like most likely, but I'm not super confident on Merritt just because of tag threat, even though he's been working through them well. And like, LDU, Fisher, Sheasel, all the North boys I might consider all playing Gorn, so that's pretty tricky. And then no one else I'm actually like a huge believer of this week. So Flanders against Freo, I think could do okay. I think Freo's been okay to score on. Although, no, maybe I'm wrong on that. But yeah, I think it's probably gone into merit, and I'm probably setting a pretty low buy here. Like a 110 would be great. I'd take that and move on, and not try and shoot the lights out for a ceiling score this week after having some decent weeks with who my captain and vice captain have been. All right, so that is everything from me for the week. Sorry for it's late, short, condensed to make up for it. Really, the only other thing is I haven't touched on is rookies. There's not great options this week. So if you haven't got Show and Maker or Dowling, you could go them on their buys this week. Otherwise, if a 200k player pops up, you could take them and hope they play. But in all likelihood, it's not for long. The other one that I actually do like is Warner. He's quite expensive now at 319k, and it may not work with your team structure to get him in. But that is, if he holds this week, I could see myself trading Harrison to Warner. It doesn't make a lot of money and actually doesn't facilitate my trades next week, so I might not. But in terms of cash gen cover, he's the other one. Like a Warner, Show and Maker, bench and defense is pretty formidable in terms of cash gen and point scoring, something I would have liked to have had earlier in the year. So yeah, that's probably the only other option there that I could look at or consider. Even moving on McCullough for him. But yeah, it does mean that I'm probably running a weaker F6 next week, which I don't know if I would be willing to make the trade-off of getting him on this week, like getting a Warner and that cover to have a weaker F6 next week and put me behind on trades for kind of like upgrading and fixing through the back half of this year. If you're in a spot where you either desperately need someone to play this week, then maybe you do consider that. But it won't be for me. So anyway, that's everything for this week. Thanks as always for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.